when we feel unfulfilled in a certain area. We're just at a stage of development that's calling us to greater fulfillment. We are growing. So we don't need to prove we have what it takes. Of course we have what it takes. We have what it takes to grow. It is innate. But when we harbor this belief that there's something wrong with us, and we initiate an improvement process from that point, we're on what I call the dark side of self-improvement, because we're literally in the dark.
Self-improvement sounds like progress. It feels productive. It gives you the sense that you are moving forward. But there is a side of it that most people never question, and that is exactly where the danger begins. Because not all self-improvement is growth. Some of it is disguised avoidance. Suzanne Eder touches on something uncomfortable. People can become addicted to fixing themselves. Always reading, always learning, always preparing, but never fully stepping into action. It creates the illusion of progress, while quietly keeping you in the same place. You convince yourself you are improving because you are consuming information. You watch videos, read books, take notes, build plans. But when it comes time to execute, hesitation appears, doubt appears, and suddenly, you need just a little more preparation. That is not growth. That is delay. The mind is intelligent enough to disguise fear as productivity. It tells you that you are working on yourself, when in reality, you are avoiding the moment where you might fail. Because action carries risk. Action exposes your weaknesses. Action removes the comfort of potential and replaces it with reality. So you stay in preparation, and the longer you stay there, the more dangerous it becomes. Because you begin to identify as someone who is working on themselves instead of someone who is actually building something. You become informed, but not effective, aware, but not disciplined. And over time, this creates a quiet frustration, because deep down, you know the truth. You are not stuck because you lack knowledge. You are stuck because you are avoiding execution.
Almost like you're a knight in the Middle Ages and you spend like your entire life deep within the castle walls, obsessively sharpening your sword and optimizing your equipment. Meanwhile, there's a war raging on outside the castle walls and the kingdom really needs your help. Maybe the princess got captured by a dragon or something like that. But you're just sitting there inside, making sure you have like the perfect equipment and you're doing tons of push-ups and stuff and making sure you're in shape. But you have no clue how to fight any of the monsters out there. You've never been on an adventure before. So it's like you have the sharpest sword in the world, but no idea how to use it. And you're running out of time.
There is a point where self-improvement stops being a tool for growth and starts becoming a system of self-deception. And most people never realize when they have crossed that line, because everything they are doing still looks productive on the surface. They are reading more, learning more, consuming more information than ever before, yet their actual life does not change in any meaningful way. This is where the problem becomes psychological rather than practical. Because the brain begins to reward you for preparation instead of execution, and over time you start confusing knowledge with progress, as if understanding something is the same as applying it. But it is not. In fact, the more you consume without acting, the more dangerous it becomes because you are building a version of yourself that feels capable without ever proving it. That creates a fragile identity. You start believing you are improving simply because you are aware of what needs to be done. But awareness without action creates internal tension. You know what you should be doing, yet you continue to avoid it. And that gap between knowledge and behavior slowly turns into frustration, then guilt, and eventually self-doubt. This is the dark cycle that nobody talks about. You keep searching for better strategies, better routines, better systems, thinking that the next piece of information will finally unlock your discipline, when in reality the issue was never the method. The issue was your unwillingness to sit in discomfort long enough to execute consistently. Because execution is simple, but it is not easy. It requires repetition without immediate reward. It requires discipline when motivation disappears. It requires you to face the possibility that you might not perform as well as you imagined. And that is exactly what most people are trying to avoid. So instead of risking failure, they stay in the safe space of self-improvement, where everything feels like progress but nothing is actually tested. And that is where years get lost. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Self-improvement can become a trap when it turns into self-deception. The more time you spend reading, planning, and preparing without actually acting, the more you convince yourself that you are progressing, when in reality you are standing still. The danger is subtle, almost invisible, but it compounds over time. You think you are growing, but your habits prove otherwise. Many people fall into this cycle because the mind loves to justify avoidance. I am studying, I am learning, I am getting ready. These words sound productive, but in reality, they are shields. Shields against failure, shields against exposure, shields against reality. Execution is risky, action is uncomfortable. It forces you to face what you cannot control. So the mind invents a safer alternative, endless self-improvement disguised as progress. And the more you indulge in this cycle, the more it becomes part of your identity. You begin to define yourself as someone who is always improving, and the idea of actual imperfect action becomes frightening. Because taking imperfect action exposes weaknesses. It exposes gaps in skill. It exposes inconsistency. And most people fear that exposure more than they desire success. The consequence is subtle but brutal. Knowledge accumulates, but results do not. Potential grows, but confidence diminishes. Time passes, and the gap between what you know and what you achieve widens. Meanwhile, other people who are willing to act are moving forward. They are building, failing, adjusting, and growing in reality, while you remain trapped in preparation. True self-improvement is only validated through action. Knowledge, reflection, and planning are tools, not endpoints. If you never apply what you learn, all the reading, all the planning, all the preparing becomes wasted time. Worse, it reinforces a false sense of identity and inflates the ego, while the world keeps moving. If you want growth that matters, you must embrace discomfort, risk, and imperfection. Stop hiding behind constant preparation. Stop delaying execution. Stop mistaking consumption for progress. Because the most dangerous side of self-improvement is believing that you are ready, when the reality is that you are still standing on the edge, afraid to jump. At some point, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. You are not stuck because you lack information. You are stuck because you have built a habit of avoiding reality. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to break it. Self-improvement, when used incorrectly, does not move you forward. It keeps you comfortable in preparation. It allows you to feel productive without producing anything real. And over time, that false sense of progress becomes dangerous because it delays the one thing that actually changes your life: action. Most people never confront this. They continue reading, watching, learning, planning, telling themselves they are getting closer, but in reality, they are standing still. And the cost of standing still is not neutral. It compounds. Opportunities pass, time disappears, and eventually the version of life they imagined becomes harder to reach. This is where the shift must happen. You stop asking, what else do I need to learn? And you start asking, why am I not applying what I already know? Because the truth is, you already have enough information to begin. What you lack is not knowledge, it is execution under discomfort. And that is the part self-improvement cannot do for you. No book can replace discipline. No video can replace action. No idea can replace consistency. At some point, you have to leave the comfort of preparation and step into the risk of doing. Imperfectly, uncertainly, but honestly. Because in the end, the most dangerous form of self-sabotage is not failure. It is hiding behind improvement, while your life stays the same.